Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
This episode is brought to you by Latin Excellence. Visit latinexcellence.com. That's Latinx, CELLENCE.com or latinxmovement.com to learn more and shop our merchandise. You are excellence. Hello and welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Louis and I'm your host. As you may have heard in the news, the U.S. Department of Education has recently announced that they will be providing some debt relief to millions and millions of borrowers in the United States. Those that qualify are people that have direct federal student loans. So this is not for people that have student debt with a direct lender like a private bank. This is for people that have federal student loans. That's the first thing you need to know. The one thing too, before I get into the qualification criteria, is that the student loan payment deferment date has been extended through December 31st, 2022. If you have federal student loans, you probably have not been making payments for about 2 years now, when it's all said and done, with 0% accumulating on those balances. So now instead of having to make payments at the beginning of September, you now have until the beginning of the next year in 2023. So there is some time there. What I highly recommend is that you revisit your payments, especially if you have had them on deferment this whole time. You know, life happens and it's very easy to have reallocated those funds towards something else, right? So now these payments are going to resume if you don't qualify for full debt forgiveness, right? So if you're going to have a balance as of the new year, I highly recommend that you revisit your budget, figure out what your new payment is going to be, and then make sure that you make room for that to start repaying again. So let's get into the criteria, right? The first thing you need to know are the income requirements. So if you're single and you make $125,000 or less, you qualify for up to $10,000 in loan forgiveness. If you're a couple that is married filing jointly, then you qualify for the same amount as well, right? So those are the income requirements: $10,000, $125,000 single, $250,000 in income if you are married filing jointly or head of household. Now, some people will also qualify for up to $20,000 in debt forgiveness. And those are individuals that received a federal Pell Grant while they were attending college. Federal Pell Grants are usually for people that had a need, so low-income borrowers at the time when they were in school. So if you happen to be in that category and you meet the income criteria, you'll be eligible for up to $20,000. Now, what does up to mean in this case? What that means is that you cannot get more debt forgiven than your actual balance. So if you qualify for the $10,000 forgiveness, but your balance is only $8,000, then you're only going to get the $8,000 forgiven, right? You're not going to get additional monies on top of that. So it's either $10,000 or your balance, whichever is lower. Right now, there's about 15 million borrowers that have balances that are under 10,000. So automatically, about 15 million people will get all of their student loan debt wiped out as a result. And then there are others who will qualify somewhere in the middle, depending on the income criteria. So this is great news for a lot of people. Another great thing to know about this is that parents that took out Parent Plus loans will also qualify, and those that took out graduate loans as well. So this has been expanded to cover that, which is great. So even if you yourself didn't have student loans, but you took out a loan for your kids, this will also qualify as long as you fall within those income guidelines. Now, up to 8 million people right now have their income criteria already with the Department of Education, so they already know what your income is. If that's the case for you, then you don't even need to apply. They will just automatically do the loan forgiveness without you having to take any action. So you want to make sure that you log into your account and make sure that they have your income on file. Now, for those of you that don't get it automatically, there's going to be a way for you to apply. The application, as of the recording of this podcast, has yet not been provided by the Department of Education, but they say that it will be up and running before the new loan payments resume. So I'm going to provide you a link in the show notes where you can actually sign in and sign up for the newsletter for the Department of Education so that when the application is up and running, you get notified via email, and then you can go ahead and apply for that, right? So that is a great news. Now, another great thing that came about is there were tremendous changes that were made to the income-based repayment plans. If you're familiar with it, it basically stated that your student loan payments were not going to be more than 10% of your discretionary income. That has been changed to only 5% of your discretionary income. So a lot of people are going to see their student loan payments significantly decrease as a result. Another major change to that is that any amount under $12,000 that you owe after a 10-year period will be automatically forgiven as well. That the period before used to be 20 years. So they cut that in half to 10 years. So this is amazing. A lot of people are going to benefit. It's going to be a lot of people that are going to have zero debt as a result of this. Some people will just have a significantly lower monthly payment going forward, which is amazing, right? So, and some people won't qualify for full debt relief, but if they can get $10,000 or $20,000 off of their student loan balance, I mean, that's also a win for them as well. There are some major changes as well to the public service loan forgiveness program. I'm not going to get into the specifics here in this particular episode because they're very cumbersome, but I will provide a link. So people that have worked in public service, right? So federal government, federal, state, tribal, or any local government or military, or a qualifying nonprofit, there are also some changes that were made to the public service loan forgiveness. So I'm going to give you the link as well, because you might even qualify for even further relief on that. So that is just amazing. So this is going to overall make student loan payments more manageable for people. One great thing about this as well is that the amount of debt that's forgiven is not subject to taxation. I've gotten that question a lot too. If you have borrowed money in the past from, say, a credit card and you settled on that, you may have received a 1099-C, which is a cancellation of debt. And as a result, you end up paying taxes on that money, right? But not in this case. Any amount that you get forgiven will be tax-free. So yet another benefit from it. So stay tuned for when the application opens. If you're not going to be one of those that has the information on file, the Department of Education, I'm going to provide the links so that you can sign up for that newsletter, provide a link if you're in public service as well, so that you can go ahead and apply. There is a deadline for October 31st for those people in public service. So I urge you to check that out if you happen to be in that category. And one more thing that I wanted to let you know before we wrap up is that this is something that is very likely going to be challenged in court. And the reason for that is because the federal government has never done this before. They have never forgiven debt in this manner, right, as far as student loans are concerned. And there are some people who are going to challenge this, actually. Unfortunately, it's become very political, right? So there are certain people that do not agree with this loan forgiveness, and they're actually going to challenge the administration's power to do this, right? So some are saying that the president does not have the authority to just do an executive order and wipe out this debt. Now, the Biden-Harris administration is stating that they can, in fact, do this because there's a special law that allows them to do this kind of stuff because of an emergency like the pandemic, right? So let's see what happens. Stay tuned. This is going to probably be battled out in court, and we'll hope for the best, right? But I wanted to throw that out because I know a lot of people get excited with things like that, but it's not 100% just yet until that matter gets resolved. If it goes to court, which very likely it will. So thank you all for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions, send me an email, luis@onmywaytowealth.com. Remember to subscribe, leave a comment. If you're happy with the podcast, obviously share it with others. And thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.